that running a veterinary business can sometimes feel like you're fighting your way through a jungle of financial insecurity, HR nightmares, and overall business confusion? Our goal is to give you the ideas and tools you need to not just survive in this jungle, but to thrive in the veterinary industry. By combining over 50 years of knowledge and experience with differing opinions and a little humor, we will help you get the information you need to make the best decisions for you and your veterinary business. Welcome to the Veterinary Survival Show with veterinary CPA and certified financial planner Mark McGaunn and certified veterinary practice manager and practice owner Jenni George.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to our latest episode of the podcast. Jenni and Mark, it's been a while. What's been going on with both of you? What's going on, Jenni?
Living my best life, still practicing at a rural veterinary practice up in New Hampshire. We just hired our 5th vet, so we're very happy about that, which is a struggle for a lot of clinics. So yeah, life's good here. I got my oldest is off in college now, so that's a whole thing that I don't think that I'm old enough for that. I'm teaching my middle how to drive. So that's a whole thing. So yeah, I'm have to dye my hair to get rid of all the grays. That's where I'm at. What about you, Mark? You're not dyeing your hair.
How can I follow that? I was, but then I looked like Elvis, so I told my hairdresser to stop. So
maybe you went too dark.
I think it was left on a little too long, like 20 minutes too long. So we're doing great. Family's good. Everybody's good. Merged with LGA last year, a year ago. That's going awesome. And that's why we reinitiated the podcast, and Chris has been moving that along. So here's our new episode.
Awesome. Yeah.
Love it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris O'Day. I work with Mark McGaunn at LGA as the marketing director. When he told me that he had a veterinary survival podcast, if you're listening to this audio, you can't see me behind me. If you're watching this on video, you see my dog in the back, longtime animal lover. So when he said, hey, would you like to jump on and see if you can fit in as a host? So you may be hearing me in future episodes, or this may be my flame out episode, but I'm happy to be here. But today, Jenni and Mark have an important topic, and it is delegation for your sanity and bottom line, something very important to veterinary practices. So I'm going to throw the first question out to you, Jenni. Why is delegation so hard for practice owners and managers?
Oh, because so I'll tell you a story. We recently we're interviewing for a vet tech assistant, and it's a person who wants to go into veterinary medicine or, be a veterinarian. And I said, why did you choose to go into the veterinary track as opposed to the certified veterinary technician track? And she goes, I want to be in control. At which point my CVT and I just started laughing because you're not really in control. But I do think that I've been doing this since 1998, and I have worked for a lot of veterinarians, and they like to do it themselves. In vet school, they're taught a lot of the technical skills. They're taught how to put in IV catheters. They're taught how to take x-rays. They're taught how to do the actual diagnostics instead of being taught how to make the relationships with the clients and how to do the exams. In reality, the difference between a veterinarian and a CVT and anybody else is that the veterinarian can diagnose, prescribe, and do surgery. There 3 things that make them different. And so I think it's really hard to give that control away, especially I know my husband is an owner, and it used to just be us. And so he had to do everything. We had a CVT, but she was, it's a matter of training and things like that and making sure that you trust your team. So I do think that part of the problem is I think a lot of veterinarians and veterinary professionals look at delegation as a way to give away control. And I want us to kind of flip that narrative and say, instead of it being giving away control, let's look at it as a way to empower people, give them the tools that they need so that they can help us help patients. You can't do it all yourself. There's only so many hours in a day. So how can we empower people? Delegation, I think, has that kind of scary connotation to it. But, we can't do everything ourselves.
Yeah, it's only 24 hours in the day, as you said. So getting really focused on the higher and best use. Mark, as an advisor, you're obviously talking with many different veterinarians and seeing their practice. Have you seen any early warning signs, maybe that one of your veterinary practices or the person you're advising, they're doing too much themselves, maybe they're spreading themselves a little too thin? Is there something that a practitioner right now could say, hey, well, that's me right now, or anything that jumps out to you?
The first thing over time I noticed was that veterinarians would say, "Oh, I spent 3 hours doing charts after work last night."
Mm.
That's an indication that there's a train wreck coming, and that's every night. So if you're not delegating parts of your workday to somebody else, you're always going to be behind. And you can always tell that by people that have all these projects to do. And at the end of the year, when we talk at tax planning time, they have not got any of them accomplished. So that means something ate up all their time. Should people be better delegators? I have a story just like Jenni. One of our clients 15 years ago was the developer of forward-looking infrared radar. He's the one that developed the manufacturing process to make it work. So he was in his late 80s, early 90s, still working. He said, "You know what? If I had learned to be a better delegator in my 50s, think of how much more successful I would have been." And this is somebody that ate dinner with Julia Child on a regular basis when she was alive. So
jealous.
So if he's saying that, why shouldn't we all be saying that? He eventually would not go down on his manufacturing floor. He had a 250,000 square foot manufacturing facility. He said, "I would just not go down there because I would try and take over." So I eventually just said, "I'm hands off. I need to let them do their job. I've delegated it to them. I'm not going to micromanage."
Well, and Mark, you hit on a really important point in that we look at the veterinary field and the mental health issues, right? The divorce rate, the alcohol, substance abuse, suicide rate. We have a problem. And a lot of that problem is that inability to let go. And so, right, if you're doing charts at 3:00 every night, or right, you go out, you're on the floor with your technicians and you have to do everything. Where's your family during all that? Where are your kids during all that? Where is your mental health time? Where are you doing anything other than working? I think back, Chris, to your question, that what is the problem? So many veterinarians, this is not a job to them. This is who they are. This isn't like, oh, I show up at Dunkin' Donuts and I, clock in and I make my 50 different lattes and then I go home. This is who they are as a human being. And they really identify as that. And so if I'm not a veterinarian, then who am I? Well, maybe you're a parent. Maybe you're a spouse. Maybe you are a friend. Maybe you're a child of your parents. There's so many different things that what are you missing out on because you can't give up that need to control things?
Well, veterinarians aren't the only one that are subject to that. CPAs,
What?
attorneys, physicians, dentists, it's all across the board.
Well, I think it's obviously a human thing. We all want to be in control of our own lives. But I also think that when you get into professions like what you just said, you're looking at very high functioning, highly intelligent people who've had to work very, very hard to get where they're at, right? That man who is 80 years old, he had to work his butt off to get done all of the things that he got done. And so in his mind, if he put that control into somebody else's hands, would he have been where he is? There's always that concern. I think when you have these high functioning people who have always had to have straight A's and always have the best grades and always be in the top of the class, and then they get into vet school and then they have to do research paper, whatever, it's even harder to let go of your your control. It's even harder to trust others.
Yeah, because it took so long to get there. And as you said, such a calling. Better and highest best use. What are the things that veterinarians should be practicing on, and what should they delegate for? So, Jenni, what tasks would you say, if you were going to say a general vet should delegate first for maximum impact of getting some of that balance back or their highest and best use?
My husband and I have talked a lot about this. We've been in practice for 18 years, and we came from a practice where the vets did everything and the technicians were glorified animal holders. And so I think when we decided to start our own practice, we really wanted to do things differently. And we wanted a team that stayed and was happy and was utilized, right? You have CVTs who've gone to school and gone into debt. They want to use their skills. We have highly intelligent customer service representatives who can be trusted to do things. So I think that, when you look at my husband and I talked about this, and he said he does probably 100% more than he normally would be able to because he utilizes his team to their fullest. So, how we do it, and I'm not saying that this necessarily would work for everybody. How we do it, first of all, you have to start with a team that you trust. So you have to build a team that you can trust, and you have to train them. And take time to train them, not chuck them in the pool and say, oh, hope you can swim, good luck, but actually train them. And I think veterinarians in general, and I don't know about other professions, but we suck at that. We are not good at training people. And so I think, first of all, you have to train them properly. But the things that a doctor should not be doing are toenail trims, drawing blood, anal glands, even, there's just so many things. A doctor should be going in, building a relationship with that client, doing the exam, nose to tail on the animal, right? But asking the questions of the clients, getting a rapport, because we're all part of a team. The clients, our team, the doctors, everybody works together for the patient care. So whatever you can delegate, do. So you don't need to be filling your prescriptions. You should have people who are trained how to do that if you have a pharmacy in your practice. When say Mark brings in, one of his pups and it's sick, and he's going to call and he's going to get me on the phone, and I'm going to get as much information from Mark as I can as the CSR answering the phone. Okay, Mark, how long has this been going on for? And he'll say, I don't know, I got to check with Kathy. But he actually, but I mean, you got to get all the information that you can. Then Mark comes in, checks in, we're going to get the weight. A technician is going to then get Mark and his pet into a room. The technician who starts recording, because we use AI now in the room, oh my gosh, that'll be a whole nother episode. But use the AI and say, okay, let's talk about the history. Mark, has your dog gotten into anything? Do we eat socks? Do we, did you notice him limping or whatever the problem might be? They get the history. If you have a limping dog, maybe we're going to take an x-ray. They might come out of the room and say, hey, Dr. George, this dog's limping on the left front. Okay, great. Let's get an x-ray, right? Meanwhile, Dr. George is in another room. But, or we have a dog that's been vomiting and we know got into the trash and really has been lethargic and not eating and drinking. Well, we know we're going to want to run a CBC chemistry and a pancreatitis panel. So let's draw the blood for that. Maybe we don't even run it yet until we get the doctor's permission, but we already have it. The technicians have done it. The doctors don't need to be doing this stuff. But then you have all of those things. The blood work's already run, or the x-ray is already taken, or the ear swab is already done. All of that stuff's done. So then Dr. George gets ready to go into the room and has the information there. So now they go in. Hi, Mark. How are you? So great. How's Kathy? How are the grandkids? Blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about your dog. Da, da, da. Does the exam. Well, I see here from the blood work, your dog looks like it's anemic and has some pancreatitis. So maybe we need to do an ultrasound, whatever. But all of those things are already done. So now we're efficient. We're moving forward. Mark doesn't want to spend his whole day at the vet clinic, and he knows the bill's going to be high, so he's really not happy about it, right? So let's try and make it as efficient as possible, because his time matters, our time matters. The dog's nervous because he doesn't want to be here. But in utilizing our technicians and our CSRs before we even start that appointment, it makes all the difference in the world. Then maybe after the appointment, he comes out and says, okay, I want this dog on Reglan. Let's give a shot of Serenia. Let's do some fluids, da-da-da-da-da. The techs are the ones that maybe place the IV catheter. They're the ones, because they're trained, they come up with the fluid rate. They do all of these things. The assistants are the ones checking on the pet, trying to see if we can get it to eat, making sure that we're going to the bathroom and that we're clean and all of these things. The vet, meanwhile, is already on to their next appointment, so that we can keep the flow going. Our patients are getting the best care. But these veterinarians who want to do everything themselves it's a detriment to them. It's a detriment to their patients and their clients, and it's a detriment to their team.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like a pyramid. You want to leverage it down so that things can get done faster at the lower levels, and then they can move on to the next patient. Makes perfect sense. Mark, so earlier, or in the beginning of the podcast, you were talking about veterinarians that you'll see they spend 3 hours making charts after work. So as a CPA and as an advisor to them, what are they trying to do their own financiers, or what do you see when you start talking to a veterinarian where they're spending a lot of time, maybe that's not their forte?
If I said this before, dentists graduate from dental school and their goal is to work 1 day a week. How do you do that when there's 5 work days plus in a week? You delegate. They already have that mentality. That's what they've been trained, whether it's from talking to peers, parents, mentors, professors. They've gained that knowledge that I have to delegate. I'm going to do it. I'm going to delegate to hygienists. The people that are earning the lowest amount of money in dentistry are the people that do their own hygiene. It's criminal. You shouldn't be doing that. Same thing in veterinary medicine. I mean, if you're on a mobile practice and it's you and you're the vet /tech /CSR /mobile van driver, great. That's how you operate. But you're not going to be efficient if you don't have somebody else in your truck, as Jenni knows from mixed animal practice.
Mark hammered it into me for years that we needed to have somebody in the truck with Simon so that, yes, he's driving, but they can call back clients. They can plan ahead. They can take payments. Mark, how frustrating is it for you, though, when you see veterinarians who are like, nope, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to be the owner. I'm going to do all the finances and all this. How many vets do you think are really great at being a vet and being a business owner, the CFO of their practice, all that kind of stuff? Be honest.
You see these dents in my head? This is from banging my head on my desk when I hear that conversation. Not many. I mean, there's some people that are good at everything. They're super type A+++ individuals. They can handle everything. Most people aren't superhuman. And why should they be? I mean, we could talk about imposter syndrome and the martyr mentality and et cetera, for hours and hours and hours. It's prevalent in all technical professions. People rise to the top because they may be good technically, but they may not be good in as far as time management and people management, which I'm a card-carrying member of that. That's why I've had to learn to delegate.
You just had to raise your hand. That's me.
I admit it freely, and everybody else will too. Yeah, I mean, going back to delegation, when you said that, people are reporting to the doctor what the patient presents with and what they've already done to further that patient along. I remember when I was a paramedic, we would bring in a patient to the ER. The nurse would ask us what we found, what the house looked like, what the patient presented with initially when we found them. And then they'd ask the patient the same exact questions, totally ignoring our knowledge that we had discovered in the time since patient care started. Very frustrating. And then doctors would ask the same questions, and patients are thinking to themselves, oh my God, why does everybody keep asking me the same questions? It's not because they have a mental issue or head trauma. Most people don't. In this case, it was a lack of trust on every level. The nurse didn't trust the paramedic. The doctor didn't trust the nurse or the paramedic. I mean, you have to get over that and delegate and trust. I mean, the greatest doctors were the ones that say, hey, what did you see? I'm like, oh my God, somebody's interested in what we want to do. I mean, that's like veterinary medicine. People want to just be heard and valued for what their knowledge base is. And working in a vet hospital as a technician or assistant, you're valuable and you know things. And if you share that, somebody should believe you. I mean, especially if you have a history of being right.
Well, and this is why I think we have to change the word delegation to empowering, right? Because so in your situation, Mark, if the nurse doesn't trust you and the doctor doesn't trust the nurse, why the hell would the patient trust any of you, right?
Well,
I'd be like,
that's what they found out at the end of their ER stay. Like, oh my God, I'm never going back to that ER again.
right.
Nobody listens to anybody.
Right. And then you have, and I hear this all the time of people in hospital stays. Well, I have a different nurse each time. I have a different doctor each time. Nobody talks to each other. You know, they have a medical chart, but it is a lack of trust. If we empower our team members, if we say, hey, this is what we want you to do. We want you to get this history, and I'm going to believe you when you say this history. Now, the caveat to that is a client will inevitably tell the vet more than they tell the technician. And this is just the way that it is, right? I think there is I don't know if it's a trust issue. I don't know what it is, but I love when I'll get, I'll be like, so Mark, does your dog eat things that they shouldn't? Oh no, my dog never eats things that they shouldn't. Okay. The doctor comes in and you're like, so he ate 2 pork chop bones, got into the trash and,
a corn cob.
Right. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. In the 30 seconds it's been since my technician left the room, my doctor came in. We cannot control that. That is not something that can be controlled. But what we can control is training those technicians how to ask the right questions and trusting that they're doing that so that we're not asking the same redundant things to the client so that they don't trust us. They want to feel like you're in a cohesive team. I want to feel like everyone here knows me, knows my pet, and cares about me. And that's only going to happen with good communication and that empowering, that training, that trust that has to be built. And it does come over time. I mean, it's not like you're going to hire somebody today and tomorrow be, oh, yeah, I trust you 100%. Don't do that. But make sure that they're trained properly. You were trained as a paramedic. Like that's not something that you just woke up and went, I'm just going to ride along in this ambulance and see what happens.
Well, I did want to do that, but I eventually had to go to school, so.
Right. I mean, there's schooling to it, right? It wasn't something that you just did. So if there's schooling to it, why wouldn't I trust that education that you got?
Well, I think maybe people may have been burned when they delegated before and it didn't go well, and maybe that was their fault for not trusting but verifying and training and mentoring. I mean, it's more complicated than here, please do this, with no expectation of quality or enforcement of quality.
Sure, but that's how you work yourself up. So, it's me as the practice manager, hospital administrator. Fine. I have 2 head technicians and 1 head CSR. I trust them because we've trained them. My husband has trained them. I have trained them. Now they train the other people so that there's this hierarchy because there's not enough hours in the day for me to sit down with every single person and go over every single thing. And honestly, I'm not a certified vet tech. I don't know all of the steps and everything that they do. So it shouldn't be on me to train them. It should be for my other certified techs who've been here. Kayla's been here for 18 years. She should be training that next generation. So, and it's a matter of, right, if you're burned in the past, then find the right people. And we've talked about this before. Don't hire a warm body, right? Make sure you're hiring the right people that are trainable, that are willing to learn, that are willing to take feedback.
Can you say the word, please?
What?
Culture.
Culture. It is about culture.
I thought it was just going to come out.
All right. So let's say right now there's a veterinary listening to this and they're doing everything under the sun. They're checking in the patients. They're doing the toenail clippings. They're doing their billing, everything. And their sanity is taking that. They don't have a day off. They're always drinking caffeine. They're always running on their time. What would you say is an area that they could start? Say, hey, this is the first thing you should maybe delegate and free up some time for yourself. Is there any area that jumps out to you, Jenni or Mark?
Billing. No vet should be in charge of the money. And Mark and I can talk about this with regards to my husband because he would do everything for free. And then you don't make a profit and then you can't afford to hire anybody to delegate to.
You'd be living in a van down by the river. Well, it's true. I mean, if you shaved off 1% of a veterinarian's duties that they've assumed because they think they have to do it, just 1%, and try and do a little delegating with that 1% to somebody that's qualified, that's been trained, that's been told, here's the result I want, and I'm going to check in frequently. The next week, you could do another 1%. And at the end of the month, you'd give away 4 or 5% of your job gone. That's 4 or 5% more free time during your workday. And just keep layering on more and more and more. I mean, we're very dispensable. Everybody thinks they're indispensable. If I don't do it, it won't get done right. Hopefully, there's people out there that are smarter and more motivated that could do it better and find a better way. I mean, everybody says the younger generation isn't that motivated and doesn't want to do things well. I mean, they want to do things better and faster and quicker and more efficiently and get praise for it, which they should.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is, what don't you like to do? Should be the question that you ask. Because if you really don't enjoy, let's say, billing, then that should be the thing that you are not doing. I talked to Dr. Peter Weinstein, and he never liked surgery. That was his least favorite thing to do. So when he bought his own practice, he hired someone who loved surgery so that he didn't have to do it anymore. you know? And I think that there is something to being said that, yes, you have to do hard things and sometimes you have to push yourself to do things that you don't like. But when it comes to running a business, if I'm going to tell you right now, if you really don't like accounting and bookkeeping, don't do it, because then poor Mark, your CPA, is going to have to start drinking a lot after he talks to you because you have no clue what you're doing. You're screwing the books up. I mean, it's awful. And so I think if you really say, I don't love to place these IV catheters. I hate doing anal glands. Who likes doing anal glands? Nobody says, ooh, this is my favorite thing. I really want to stick my finger up this dog's butt. Nobody says that. Like, that is not a favorite part of anybody's job. It is something that needs to be done. I can guarantee you I have failed to learn how to do that on purpose because I don't want to do it. So I have certified vet techs who have gone to school, who've taken anatomy and physiology, who understand what an anal gland does, why it gets stuck, why we have to release them, what we need to, put in the medical chart so they can do that. Not that they're going to be like, yes, I get to do anal glands, but it is one thing less that you need to do. I'm going to tell you, there are very few dogs that love getting their nails trimmed. So why is a doctor wrestling on the ground with this chihuahua that wants to bite his face off? Like, let your CVTs, who have probably gone through fear-free training and know how to better handle this angry chihuahua, let them do the nail trims. But think about, what do you really love to do and what don't you love to do? Because this can vary from associates to owners. There are associates out there who come out of school, have great technical skills, but maybe they need to be working on their communication skills and building rapport with the clients. So, okay, trust your CVTs, trust your nurses, trust your RVTs, LVTs, whatever you have. If you don't have one, find them and utilize them, because the only way we're going to keep our team is if they have autonomy over their jobs, right? Like, Mark, you didn't feel good when everybody's questioning you as a paramedic. That doesn't make you feel like, yes, I'm a badass. Like, everybody knows that they trust me. Nobody feels that way. But if you trust your team and give them autonomy over their jobs and let them do what they're trained to do, they want to stay. You were saying, Mark, the younger generation, people talk trash. I'm going to tell you right now, I have a 17-year-old girl who's working for me. She's amazing. She is blowing my mind with her intelligence, her hard work, her curiosity, her ability to retain knowledge. These kids are smart. They are really smart and they are thirsty to learn, but you have to be willing to teach them and take the time. That's my soapbox. And build a culture, a good culture.
So there's always somebody that is, a yin and yang kind of relationship where if you don't like to do something, maybe there's somebody that has been clamoring to do that.
Absolutely. I hate inventory. I hired somebody, my second longest team member who has been here. She used to work in retail. So she loves inventory. She loves counting. I'm like, oh my God, you can't make me, like, that's horrible to me. She loves it. Great. I have somebody who can do that job that I can trust. I hate bookkeeping. I have Mark who fixes all my mistakes.
Still trying to take that over after so many years.
Yeah, right. But what do you love to do and what don't you love to do? And hire for your weaknesses, right? Like, if I suck at this, then why wouldn't I hire? I'm not a spreadsheet person. Like, I hate scheduling. I hate spreadsheets. One of my head CVTs today came into me with this amazing chart that she just made on how to, what technicians work when, what doctors work when, how can we line up who works in what room with what doctor. And I literally looked at her and I said, I'm so glad that your brain works like this, because mine doesn't. And somebody's needs to.
Yeah. Playing off people's strengths. And I love that. Since the days of caveman, people have always loved hearing stories, though, around the fire, hearing those stories. Do you have any real world examples of either your practice or another practice, or Mark, one that you worked with, when people have started delegating and really turning it around? Like the whole bar rescue, like, let's do it new, shut it down. And then, or they make a little improvement and they start seeing a big difference the next time you check in.
Bar rescue was not real because I knew somebody whose bar was on bar rescue.
Spoiler alert.
Mark!
It was all scripted.
Don't wreck it for people. We could do vet rescue. Oh my gosh, I love this idea.
That would be a good idea.
We're going to go in and we're going to be like, this is what you need to do. And we can have like, Animal Planet record it.
Can we cause drama too?
100%. We're all about drama. No, I think I literally have watched as we have grown, and we have grown. It started off with my husband, myself. We had a technician who lived with us because we couldn't pay her enough to live someplace else. So she literally lived in the apartment. And we've grown to a 5-doctor practice. We have 30 team members. And my retention, I have 3 team. We opened up, let's see. Well, Tristan's 18. So we opened up 18 years ago. I have 3 team members that are at 17 years because we trust them. I have worked at clinics where they didn't trust, where the doctors did everything. And it was like a rotating door. Nobody stayed more than a couple years. And those who did had very low self-esteem. That's that. Mark, you go around and you see places all the time. Have you had this conversation?
We have it a lot. Some people are going to always operate the way they do. My first vet hospital was our own veterinarian years ago. And I always complained that he only spent 5 minutes in the room with me. And I was a good friend. And I'm like, why is he only spending 5 minutes in the room? And then I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. I'm like, that's all he should be spending. And his team members would come in, they'd draw bloods, they'd take, the time it was Ben Bama coach out for x-rays. And it went like as smooth as silk. It worked. And he had the best way about him. He did the best medicine and nothing took away from that. I didn't say, oh, can you check me out? Or can you, explain what this med is and how often I should give it and how I should store it and how do I reorder it? I never asked him that. So he had a well-oiled machine and he did that years ago. He had a small place and then he expanded to a monster hospital and it worked then. So I think everybody should do it.
Do you get to know the technicians and the receptionists and all of that kind of stuff too?
Some of them. Because I've worked with him since 2003 when they were very small. So I've seen them grow and I've seen their employees and I worked very intensely with their manager. He didn't manage. That was hands off. Didn't look at QuickBooks, didn't look at Xero, didn't look at his payables. He worked with patients and pet owners. That was it.
And
so that was the key to his success.
Yep. And that's how he was able to grow.
That's how he was able to grow. And a super delegator, sometimes he didn't know where the bodies were buried, which was an issue. Not literally, I'm talking figuratively.
What were they doing in this vet clinic, Mark? Speaking of, now we've turned into a murder podcast.
Yeah, murder mystery.
Right. No, I do think that, that's what I really like about the retention of the team, because they have autonomy, because we delegate. Clients know them. They come in and they say, hey, I really want to see Amber. Can Amber give my dog a Librela shot? Okay, Amber can give your dog a Librela shot. Anybody can give your dog, but yes, you want to see Amber, that's fine. And I think that's part of the cool thing. And when you call in, you're going to get the same people on the phone. And the relationships do become everywhere instead of those very needy clients who can only talk to the doctor. And that's it. That's the only person I want to talk to. And that's who I want to talk to about everything. It saves your doctor that time. Not that there aren't still going to be those clients, because there are clients who really need to have what we call a little bit more hand-holding. And that's okay, because if you're delegating properly, you have time.
Right.
You have the time to do the hand-holding for those clients who really need it, and building those relationships and making sure that those patients are taken care of. But it just is a mindset switch, right? Of saying, it's not about me giving away control. It's about me empowering my team and making it so that we can have a better patient outcome, a better client outcome. And it does, Mark, see, now you got me on it. It comes down to culture. If you have a culture where you trust your team If you have a culture where you're all there for the same reason, why are we here? We are here for good patient outcomes. So we want to make sure that every animal has a great visit. They're not scared. We feed them a ton of pup cups and squeezed cheese and whatever else they want. We want great patient outcomes. Great. So now we're all here for the same reason. So now let's build our culture around that. How do we make that happen? By trusting one another.
You said talk to the same people all the time. I think that's one of our topics was about profitability and delegation. If people leave because they feel that they're not getting tasks assigned to them, then you're scrambling to fill their position. You may not be generating enough revenue, especially if they're a doctor or a technician. You've lost your production capacity or part of it. You're going to ramp down your profitability until you replace them. And then say you hire a new grad, it may take speed or time for them to get up to speed. So it definitely affects your profitability. If you have that process in place where you know what people are going to be delegated tasks for, things just run smoother. You're not going to have holes. You're not going to have lack of key team members. They're not going to be leaving to go to some place else where they're valued. So I think it definitely affects profitability and your efficiency to operate and produce medicine. I mean, if your schedule, everybody, who knows, an hour appointment, 30-minute appointment, 20, whatever is optimal. If you could shave 5 minutes off every hour appointment or 3 minutes off every 30-minute appointment because you're more efficient and you've delegated, you can see more people.
Well, and to your point about profitability, I think you're less likely to miss things, to miss charges, to miss like sending animals home with preventatives. If your CSRs are, as we're checking out, did you need, I see here that, 6 months ago you bought your whatever, flea and heartworm preventative. Do you want me to get you another 6 months of that? The doctor's not necessarily going to see that or pay attention to that. That's lost revenue, right? You're missing out on those charges. And I do think too, sometimes like in our case, our technicians are the ones that really go over the treatment plans. The doctors don't go over the treatment plans. The technicians do. They're educated enough to know what needs to happen. Okay, your dog's going to come in for a dental. Here's why we need to take full mouth x-rays. Here's what a bone graft is. Here's what a nerve block is. Here's why we do all these things. Here's why we need to put your animal under anesthesia, because no, Fluffy is not going to sit there with its mouth open for an hour while we clean the teeth. Like, we do have to sedate. Maybe people would like that too. I don't know. But they go over all of that because, one, that's time that a doctor's in another appointment again, right? So more efficient, more revenue. And two, the technicians are less likely to say, oh, gosh, that seems expensive. Let's give a discount. And the doctors, God bless them, are far more likely to be like, ooh, we're going to take $500 off of that, which is why we've removed our doctors from anything that has to do with money. But time is money, right? Efficiency is money. You're going to make more if you utilize your team. And you're right. How much does turnover cost? Holy cow.
So CSRs, I mean, you mentioned them, they're the front door and they're at the back door on the way in and on the way out. And there are some practices using AI to take away some of their duties so that they're more client facing and don't have to be doing a lot more technology tasks and scheduling appointments. They're there to answer questions when people are coming in and when they're going out, and trying to do the forward thinking and forward booking aspects of the job, as well as answer technical questions. So AI, is it great? Maybe, may not be. I don't want my job replaced by AI, but it can complement what some practices are doing.
Sure, it can. And I think too, like our CSRs are the ones that are calling back. So if your dog had a dental yesterday, my CSRs are calling back today to see how we're doing. The doctors want to know, and they will look at the notes at the end of the night. So instead of spending 3 hours writing up charts, they're looking up at follow-ups to see how Fluffy did. Okay. But they don't need to be the ones calling. My techs don't even need to be the ones calling. They're taking care of the patients that are here. My CSRs, I have one of them sit up here by themselves. So they're not in front of people. They're not, trying to answer the phone or do anything. Their focus is, let me call back these people. And my one receptionist, Heidi, was doing that today. And I was just listening to her. And you could tell when she was talking to somebody who was a little worried. Heidi's been doing this for a long time. She knows what to expect. Yes, your dog might not poop after having anesthesia, and that can take up to 48 hours. So we're going to call you tomorrow and see how that's going. Or yes, it's normal for your dog to make a little bit more noise the night after anesthesia because they're confused. But she can calm people down. And even though they're not speaking to the doctor, they know this person was trained and trusted by the doctor. So it's a team. It's that whole team effort. So yeah, delegating doesn't just have to be doctor to everybody else. It can be all throughout the team. Your CSRs are extremely valuable resources that I think are very underappreciated. Nobody wants their job. They very rarely get taken for continuing education. And they're the first person you talk to, the first person you see, the last person you see, and sometimes the last person you talk to when they call to check on your pet. They love what they do and they stay because they feel needed. Everybody just wants to feel needed.
Big shout out to our CSRs out there.
Heck yeah.
You are loved. So I've heard you guys have, I'm going to go delegate everything after this. I'm going to go out there.
Be a dentist.
Yep.
Delegate.
Everything. I'll delegate that to my dentist. I got
Chris is just going to sit there and watch TV. And when, what are you doing? I delegated all my jobs. Now my job is just to catch up on the, binge watch, whatever the latest episode is of who knows.
So heard a lot of great tips today, but as we wrap up, I just want to say, if you definitely turn the lights on. If anyone's listening to this, again, delegate, have your sanity. You don't be a master of what you're the highest best at, but you don't have to be a master of all or try to do everything. But what would you say are 1 or 2 small delegation habits a listener could implement tomorrow?
I would take the Vet Tech certification program guide and check off all the jobs on there that a veterinarian does and don't do them anymore. It's easy to do. You can shave off separate duties, but you should check off whole roles that you've taken on yourself and delegate them to the people that have been trained to do them.
And to that point, make sure you're looking at your state practice act, because a lot of state practice acts will tell you exactly what certified vet techs can do. Some of them will tell you what veterinary technician assistants can do, if they have to be under direct supervision or indirect supervision, all of those things. So we're not, it's great. So I live in New Hampshire, live free or die, right? It really is. We used to, our practice act was like a page, and it didn't mention any of that. And in the last couple of years, that has changed. And so we have had to change how we do things. But there are still so many little things. But Chris, you brought up a really good word, habit. Make it a habit. So if you say, start small, Mark said 1%, I'm not going to do any more toenail trims. Unless my favorite 90-year-old client who only wants the doctor to trim her cute little Chihuahua's nails, then fine, you do it. But other than that, you're not doing any more nail trims. That's your 1%. Let's start with that. Then you're not going to do any more anal glands. That's 1%. And so pick the little tiny things and slowly let go. Sing Elsa's song from Frozen and let it go. Because you don't need those things to bog down. And then look for efficiencies is my other big tip. We talked about charting. The biggest thing that we have done in the last year is bring on AI scribing for our medical charts. And I am not hunting my doctors down anymore to write up their charts. They're done. Some people are still in a paper practice. Maybe start looking at going to a paperless or a paperless practice. Can be scary and overwhelming, and everything is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I can do it. But atomic habits, one small, tiny little change, and they build up and build up and build up. So start small.
Awesome.
We have people in their 60s that are starting to use AI transcription. It works.
But I just want to say, it's great to get this podcast going again. So anyone listening, you're going to see this podcast again on a more regular basis. We're going to be getting it out there. But Jenni and Mark, I just want to say thank you for your time today and look forward to the next podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for listening to the Veterinary Survival Show. If you have any questions for Mark or want to learn more about how LGA supports veterinary practices, visit our website at lga.cpa. Again, that's lga.cpa. Before we go, Mark and Jenni will both be speaking at VMX 2026 in Orlando. Mark will be presenting Foundations of Financial Planning for Veterinarians and Advanced Financial Planning for Veterinarians on Tuesday, January 20th. Jenni will have 3 sessions: Cultivating Positive Workplace Culture and Leadership, Mentoring the Next Generation on Monday, January 19th. She will also be presenting Imposter, Who Me, on Tuesday, January 20th. If you're heading to VMX, make sure to check us out and say hello to Mark and Jenni. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the very next episode.